once you see it, you can't unsee it,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So anyway.
And it's the thing, it seems like the thing that everybody's looking for. Like Britta and I talk about this. We're like, I feel so lucky to have found this. And it's like, oh my God, we're in touch with the thing that everybody's looking for and they already have it. And they just don't know, like, and it's just this simple thing. And like, oh my God, what is possible for just an individual? Like the transformation that can happen is insane. It's perfect. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who, like, I lived mostly in that left brain for most with the glimpses and like, fuck, that sucked. And now I live mostly in this right brain and oh
Wow.
my God, this is amazing. This is so
Wow.
beautiful. And to just imagine, like, I just selfishly want for me, the world to wake up to this shit because, like, oh my God, like, even if it's just all for me, I'm just like, I want it for me because, like, fuck,
That's
that
a
would be
nicer world.
so,
Yeah.
that would be like, wow, how good would this be if, like, more and more, like, oh my God, that would be amazing.
Kevin's like grounded masculine safety meets a weird realm-bending permission slip.
And Britta's like a wise and witchy Mary Poppins.
Yeah, it's better than therapy.
This stuff is
But
way
for
better
real.
than therapy.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better than therapy.
It's better than therapy.
Better than therapy.
I'll give an intro this time because why not?
All right.
Let's do an intro. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Fawn Miller would you call yourself a transformational coach? We had to,
I'll let you describe that. Me.
yeah. Fawn's a human. Most days. Yeah.
Most days. I don't know. Some people might contest that, but we'll go with it.
Mhm. Yeah. So Fawn Miller is a transformational coach who I'm working with right now as my coach. And we originally got connected because I was talking to Michael McDonald and I was like, where are the other like awesome women coaches who are grounded in this deeper understanding and like within my general age range? Like, where are they? Like, I was like, I see a lot of like more like elder women. And then there are a lot of women in this 30s, 40s coaching sphere who are very in a specific like modality or like really like I stay in this modality box or really beautiful and magical in many ways and sometimes like lacking a deeper grounding. I was like, where are my people? And he's like, oh, I got to introduce you to Fawn. And then we met and I was like, yeah, she gets it. She's awesome. And then I don't know, 6 months, a year later, we're working together with you as my coach. And yeah, one of the like first things we started exploring and working together, I was coming in with this question, desire that's been just like in my heart and who I am for so long, which is like, I want to like be in my feminine more. I want to like live more in my feminine. And yeah, you helped guide me to like, wait, what does that actually mean? Like, really, though, like, what does that like really mean? And it like flourished into this conversation around like left brain, right brain, and the way we're designed, like, even on like a brain hemisphere level as humans. And like, what's been so fun is like these understandings and just way I orient towards life. And it feels like part of working with you so far, I've started to see more of the like science and like even like the intellectual understanding that backs up these spiritual understandings and like experiential realities I'm living in. And yeah, so I'd love to explore that in some way or facet in this conversation because you have like, you're very well studied. Like, you really love to like geek out on all of like the science and like meaning behind things, like just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. And it's, I think, like really cool and helpful. And now I'm just rambling, but I'd love to go somewhere in that direction in this conversation today.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing the context of our connection and some of the ways that our work together and some of the things that I've shared have resonated with you and integrated with you. I love hearing that. And especially like hearing it fresh this morning in context of this conversation is really, really special. Yeah. So I'm as voracious as I am about learning and knowledge and what most people might call intellectual as I am creative and exuberantly obsessed with life. So I somehow, and I'm very grateful for this, but I somehow embody this multifaceted, kind of like fully engaged with life vessel that I'm in. And that has led me into a lot of academic and intellectual pursuits. And it's also led me into an entire world of creativity and creation and service through creation. And so just to really, really, really high level context this conversation, there's whatever I share, I'm sharing from a space of, hey, I checked this out and I've been checking it out and I have found it really helpful. Check it out, try it on and see what you see with it, right? So I want to clarify that I'm not coming into this or any conversation with an air of like, here's my academic, like thesis on innate well-being or innate wholeness. It's a very holistically sourced come from. And I get really, really excited and passionate about talking about it and about sharing it. And so I would just invite you two and anybody else who might be listening to, instead of listening with maybe a more analytic / left brain, which we'll get into, orientation, to just check it out, see how it feels, see what's landing, and then take it out into the world and test drive it and see how it goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun. Yeah. And I just I want you to be in teacher role as much as you want. And yeah. And permission for this conversation to get windy and weird.
Yes.
Too.
Awesome.
And anybody to jump in and follow what feels alive at any moment.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So as far as I can remember, for the entirety of my life, I have been obsessed with this phenomenon that I noticed from when I was a kiddo of why some people seem to be really enjoying life and what I would call now thriving, and why other people seem to really struggle and or seem to have a lot of challenges or stumble a lot in the way that they move through the world or think about the world. So I've had this fascination for a long time, and that's really what inspired me to study a lot of things related to this: consciousness, neuroscience, psychology, biology, spirituality across many domains and modalities. And so in this still innate fascination and curiosity about the human experience, something that I have noticed is that nature, when I look around me at nature, nature's orientation is to thrive, like across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any exceptions to that. Every little organism and every little micro ecosystem is, to the best of its capacity, thriving, but it's oriented to thrive. And so as I've explored these questions and these curiosities about why are some people thriving and why are some people not, I have really oriented toward nature as teacher. And I think one of the most fundamental things that I recognized is that, holy shit, there's this kind of like society-wide or maybe even like globally, this assumption that human beings are somehow an exception to nature. That we are this like rare oddity in the natural world, and we are the one thing that is not oriented to thrive. And so we're told, right, that we are dysfunctional, or that we are original sinners, or that we need to constantly be working on ourselves and improving ourselves and da 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 da. And that just didn't feel intuitively accurate to me, like, given that we are nature. And so in pulling on those threads, when I was studying human behavior at UC Berkeley, I just so happened to be so fortunate to work in and study with this social psychology lab with Dr. Keltner, and which the entire lab is focused on the human disposition for good, that we're actually very altruistic. We're actually oriented toward thriving. We're actually oriented naturally, innately, to be in a flow state, to be connected with the world, be connected with each other. And so that was really helpful for me to see that there's actually some like science underneath this hypothesis that I've had. Because, and I should share that I've always felt incredibly connected with life and optimistic and see the beauty and create beauty and feel connection with other people and other beings. And so it was like extra befuddling for me as a youngster when I would look around and see that other people weren't experiencing
Not everybody's having this. Yeah, I relate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And like, and certainly not from a like, hey, what's wrong with everybody, but more so like, hey guys, like, how can I help? Like, what's going on over there? Right? Like, how
Yeah.
can I help you? Like, life is beautiful. So anyway, so in getting some foundations scientifically in social psychology and then neurology and consciousness studies around this truth that we are indeed actually oriented toward thriving, like that is our nature. So from there, and I'm not going to go into like a narrative story, but from there, my fascination really went into, okay, how can I be a part of facilitating this thriving with others and for others? And I noticed that most approaches, especially at the time, this is 2009, 10, most approaches were focused on what's wrong with people, like still with the orientation of like fixing, like, oh, you have depression. Oh, you have anxiety. Oh, you're insecure. Oh, so like, first of all, like labeling the person as the thing, right? Anxious or or insecure. And I don't mean to laugh at that with like any flippant kind of way. It's more so the assigning labels to people and then treating people like labels thing that I'm like, So that I was like, what? No, why would we do that?
Something just feels off here.
Something feels really off. And this was before positive psychology hit the scene, thankfully, around like 2007. So that was just starting to bud over at UPenn in the early 2000s and hadn't really made its way into academia yet. So positive psychology being one of the only, if not the only field that studies what's right with people and gets really curious about like, what is it that contributes to humans actually thriving? So that as a field of study wasn't around when I was in college. And I did study it later, but and so this noticing that, okay, if I really want to help people reorient with their natural capacity to thrive, probably it's not going to be through focusing or having a presumption that something's wrong with them, right? And then like trying to like rewire them or something. And long story short, that's how I found coaching. Coaching was the only thing that I could find that was an avenue for that. And coaching was still really early. This is 2012, 13, 14 when I really started. I got a coach and, like, what is coaching all about? And that's when I realized, awesome. Okay, I can actually orient with people with this baseline understanding that they're inherently and innately whole and complete and capable, and that there is nothing wrong with them and they don't need fixing. Like, oh my gosh, like that's okay. And I think I was still, looking for some kind of external, not validation so much as like maybe like a prototype or something to be able to do this. And so that was really when I realized I could integrate and start to bring in all of my experience with like spirituality and my own explorations of consciousness and spirituality, and then psychology and neuroscience, et cetera. And so the rest is history. It's been 10, 12 years now. And what I have learned, especially more recently in the past 5 years, what I've realized through some incredible um, just geniuses in the world is that we're so well designed for thriving that our system lets us know when we're out of alignment with thriving. And that's really all that's ever going on. Like stress, insecurity, anxiety, all the things that plague us. The way that it feels is an indication as to how in alignment or out of alignment are we with thriving in the moment. And a lot of that is modulated through the hemispheres, through the brain, which is a part of our central nervous system, which is a part of our whole being, which is a part of what creates and generates our reality. And so I dove into this fascinating realm of the brain and the brain hemispheres through the work of Ian McGilchrist and Les Femi and some other fantastic researchers. And what I learned was so exciting that I was like, and I still am kind of like running around like, it's like, hey, everybody, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you for reals, though.
Like the science is catching up to these spiritual truths.
Yeah.
You needed the data. Here it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's some context, and I feel like I'm talking a lot. So I want to pause here, and I'll go into like the actual like bits and pieces of this. But I want to pause here and see if there's any, what's coming up for you too, or if there's anything you want to throw in.
What would you say to someone if they're listening and they're like, no, but like, it feels like there's something wrong over here. Like I hear what you're saying, but that's not what my experience is. Like I'm really suffering. I'm struggling. Like, no, it really looks to me like there's something to fix in myself or in the world.
Yeah. Great question. Okay. And perfect segue. Thank you for the setup. So what I would share with them is what I'll share right now. And then we can dive in and see what we see about it.
Cool.
All right. So one of the first things that knocked my socks off about this, Ian McGilchrist in particular, his research. So Ian McGilchrist, just a little bit of context. He's an epic polymath. He was an Oxford scholar, turned psychiatrist, top of his field, top of all domains, absolute and utter genius. And what he, in a nutshell, and it's really hard to nutshell Ian's work because it's so vast and it's so incredibly profound, but in a nutshell, what Ian discovered is that contrary to what we've been taught about the brain hemispheres in like pop psychology, where it's like the right is creative and feminine and free-flowing, and the left is logical and strategic and mathematic. So it turns out that none of that, or very, very little of that, is actually accurate. That kind of sprouted up with some studies in the 70s and 80s and it kind of got shoved into a box and never looked at again academically until Ian came along. And what he realized, so he's a psychiatrist, right? He's on the front lines. He's working with patients with significant neurological situations and damage and or significant experiences that kind of deviate from the norm. And what he, over decades and thousands of patients and papers, recognized is that it's not that our brain hemispheres do different things. Like we have, like both parts of our brain are helpful in interpreting language and math and creativity. And so we have like all the things are mostly in both hemispheres. But what he recognized is that this is like the profound game changer, is that it's not what the hemispheres do, it's how they orient with the world. And so what he found is that and I'll try to bite size this, so for example, when patients have damage in the right hemisphere, whether it's like a lesion or some kind of something in the right hemisphere that is subduing the functionality of the right hemisphere, that means the left hemisphere is the one that's like more in charge. And he started to notice these patterns of people who were living in left hemisphere created realities or living in left hemisphere attention. And what he noticed is that the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere attend to the world in completely different ways. So, left hemisphere sees objects, it doesn't see holistically, it sees kind of one thing at a time. It's very fixed, it's very rigid. It categorizes, it classifies, it evaluates, it criticizes, it thinks it's superior to the degree that it's delusional. It is obsessed with control and trying to control things and put things into order, like in really linear ways. It doesn't understand implicit context or context at all, or dimensionality. And it orients with the world in a very mechanistic way, like very machine-like. And it sees the world very machine-like and in pieces and parts and bits. Whereas the right hemisphere has interfaces with the world in such a way that it experiences the holistic picture, the nuances of what's going on. It can take into consideration the context of whatever is happening. It experiences emotion, with the exception of fear. Fear is more left hemisphere than right. Emotion, the right hemisphere is embodied. The right hemisphere is not egoic. There's no sense of like itself or its self-righteousness. It's very integrated. It's very generative in a really helpful way. And so these differences started to emerge. And what Ian noticed is that, and he has this whole body of work going, and the first book he wrote is he goes back through and chronicles human history and looks at human history. And it's fascinating because he can overlay these hemisphere differences over these different periods of time in history and have a really good sense of which hemisphere was the dominant hemisphere in human functioning at the time, and culturally what was being emphasized in terms of which hemispheres. So, more dominant, oppressive, patriarchal societies, warring societies that wanted more land, more property, more of a division between, the powers that be. So left hemisphere all the way through and through. Like those things can only happen through left hemisphere dominant orientation with the world. Whereas in more harmonious societies and societies that aligned in a way that was synergistic and generative for the society, demonstrated these aspects of how the right hemisphere orients with the world. And so he started to notice these patterns socially. And so that's when I came in contact with this research, I was like, oh my God, okay. So because in personal development, I don't know about you guys, but I had heard forever, like, it's your thinking, like change your thoughts, change your life, and do your affirmations, and which is all good. And Lord knows I've done, like a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But what I saw through the lens of Ian's research is that oh my gosh, it's not what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking isn't the problem. There is no problem. It's just that I'm orienting toward my thinking either through my left hemisphere or my right hemisphere. And that makes an entire world of difference. It generates a completely different reality if I'm attending to myself or my thinking or the world through my right hemisphere versus attending to myself or the world through my left hemisphere. Like a completely different reality is generated. And then I'm in that experience, right? I'm living in the experience of my thinking, but that there's another layer to it. I'm living in the experience of my attention to my thinking. How am I attending to my thinking? So that was a really like a beam of light. And I started to notice myself in the world and then like the world around me and just so clearly understand, oh my gosh, like my thinking is impersonal. It's not only like my self narrative about myself and who I think I am, because all that's made up, but the state that I'm in, like how much or how little I feel like I'm thriving is 100% correlated with the way that I'm attending to the world and to myself. So, to your question, Kevin, for somebody who is struggling or feels like they are struggling with themselves or that there's something they need to fix about themselves, just to be very objective about it, that kind of thinking can only arise if we're paying attention to ourselves through left hemisphere dominance. Like that way of thinking and like assessing is just not possible from the right hemisphere. So kind of the gestalt takeaway of all of this is that right hemisphere dominance, and I like to call it harmony because dominance is like so not what the right hemisphere would call it. So the harmony of the first book Ian wrote is called The Master and His Emissary. So the right hemisphere is meant to be, and we're designed for the right hemisphere to be the master. And I'll do a lot of hand motions. I don't know why. And the left hemisphere to be the servant to the right hemisphere, to be the emissary. So we need the left hemisphere. We need to be able to define things and to grab things and sometimes to maybe utilize like control or agency over things. Like that's all part of very important survival, if nothing else, but not at the exclusion of the right hemisphere, and certainly not at the ignorance of the right hemisphere. So bringing right hemisphere into harmony, into dominance, that's all we ever need. And I put that in big air quotes. That's all we ever need to do. We don't even need to do that because you do whatever you want. But so in the understanding that we come from, right, with the like, it's a feeling, right? Like innate well-being, this state of experience that we are all up to and that we are helping our clients to be up to. That state that we're experiencing is generated through the harmony of the hemispheres. It's generated through we are living in alignment with the way that nature has designed us to be living. And so if there's any struggle or like, I call them gremlins, the negative, like judgy thoughts, the like unhelpful thinking, I call them gremlins. Now I realize that I don't have to do anything about the gremlins. I don't have to like fix my thinking. All I need to recognize is like, oh, there's a gremlin. That's just a signal that I'm in my left hemisphere right now. Cool. And so it's like, sounds kind of overly simplistic or cliche, but all we ever need to do is notice. Wake up in the moment and notice. We're not going to be able to think our way out of our shitty thinking, most likely. But if we know that we can go upstream, so to speak, if we know that, oh, the quality of my thinking right now is a direct byproduct of the state of my physiology, my brain, my hemispheres. Oh, cool. I don't have to take it personally or believe anything that I'm thinking in this moment, no matter how convincing it might feel or seem. And B, I can either hang out until I'm in a better feeling, or there are things that I can do if I want to shift into right hemisphere dominance. I can listen to music. I can go for a walk. I can pet my cat. I can cuddle my dog. Like I can look out at the ocean. So it's a matter of understanding how the vessel works, and then just utilizing noticing and awareness to see what we notice when we shift into a different state of being, aka harmony with the hemispheres. And it's highly unlikely, and I've tried this on a lot. It doesn't, my self-criticism and my I need fixing thoughts don't seem real when I'm in that other space.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. I'm going to just
That's
let you
great.
guys.
Thank you.
Oh,
Britta gave me the permission slip to teach as much as I want. So I'm like,
oh,
okay.
be teacher.
It's
She
great.
said, I got
That's
my
great.
5x7 whiteboard. Or
Green light.
when you shared that, Kevin, did you hear that when we got on the call?
I heard like the second half of it, and I think my right brain was like, "Ooh, that sounds exciting. I want to
That's what
do
I
that."
thought.
I
I
don't
was
even
like, we
know
gotta
what
get
happened,
Kevin a 5x7
but I was like, "That sounds
whiteboard.
fun and creative." Yeah. Like I'm like whatever you did this morning. Yeah, I would probably like doing that.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm here just to like kind of reflect back some things. I'm hearing it's more about this shift. Like something becomes available to us when like the right brain takes the throne, so to speak, rather than the left brain. And it's a really powerful and generative to make that shift. It's always available to us. And if it doesn't feel like, if someone's like not experiencing that, it's like a clue that like you're like in the left brain view right now. And so rather than trying to like sort of why you can't think your way out of it is because that's like being in the left brain, trying to left brain your way into the right brain. And it's like, that will never work versus just
100%.
this such simple, ordinary, like, oh, just noticing. Oh, that's the noticing and understanding. Like, oh, that's just a clue I'm in my left brain. Okay. That's what it's like when I'm in here. And if I want to shift, I don't have to shift out of it. And if I would like to, it's more like shifting my relationship to thinking. It's more like letting things kind of settle more. And I might do it through going for a walk or looking at art, or even in this conversation, I could just have this conversation become a little more like art. It's kind of like your invitation to listen more for like insight is what I hear at the beginning, rather than analytical mind was like an invitation to like listen more from hanging out a nice feeling, hanging out in your right brain. Let harmony lead and let harmony listen. And that's going to be so much more enjoyable and so much more impactful. Like that's how to thrive. That's sort of how to do it. And it's incredibly simple. And the left brain might argue of like, no, but it can't be that simple. It's like, yeah, that's what the left brain does. Like,
Because it can't
it's
see it all. It's
Yeah.
like limited.
Right. Britta, thank you for mentioning that. Did I mention that? I don't think I mentioned that.
The left brain.
Yeah,
So-
speak to that a
seeing.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Britta. And just for the audience and for both of you, I have a resource list and a playlist of Ian McGilchrist's talks, YouTube interviews and talks that I'm happy to share, because listening to him is like, that's the way to do it. I'm just here as like a mere ambassador of truth.
We'll put that in the show notes. Yeah.
Awesome. So the left hemisphere, so the right hemisphere is where the world comes into us first. It comes in primarily through I call them our brain. Sometimes I'll refer to it as our reality filters or the dashboard. Because we're never directly experiencing the world. We are experiencing our perceptual interpretation of the world. And so if that perceptual interpretation is right hemisphere, the right hemisphere takes in everything, and then it brings it over to the left hemisphere to be kind of like computed, or like to kind of analyze the data and, do whatever the left hemisphere does to really help make sense of this whole incoming stream of stimuli that is coming into us. So the left hemisphere does its thing, and it's supposed to, when we're in harmony, it's supposed to pass it back over to the right hemisphere to then integrate. Okay, great. Now we have we've made sense of the data. We also have the big picture. And now we feel like we are alive and in the world and engaged with the world. And that's that feeling of harmony, or that feeling of thriving. And my one of the researchers that studied flow and became kind of famous for flow, Mike Csikszentmihalyi, all of the flow research substantiates this as well, that flow is when we are in the immediacy, but also in the synthesis that the right hemisphere creates. Here's the thing. The left hemisphere doesn't know what it doesn't know. And it thinks it only has the data that it has in the way that it generates it. So it actually can't see or understand what the right hemisphere understands by nature of its function. So it has no idea that it's not the only boss in town. And so in the story of the master and the emissary, it's this allegory in cultures throughout human history about the master and this emissary that's meant to, help the master and help manage the kingdom. But the emissary, short-sightedly and nearsightedly, starts to get more powerful and more arrogant and decides that he should be in charge, when he in fact doesn't have scope of the full picture. And so when he gets in charge, that's when civilization falls. And that's what we see time and time again. So the left hemisphere, in its ignorance, is so certain, not only can't see the big picture and synthesize it, but it's so self-assured in whatever delusion it's making up about the world. So this is where I'm like, when we're really self-critical, when we're taking ourselves really seriously, when we're like worrying about the future, when we're anxious about anything, right? All of that is a result of this limited scope capacity to access the information of our reality. And then also this like sense of like certainty, like, oh no, but I really am not enough. Like I really am not worthy. Like here are all the reasons.
Yeah.
It's true for me. Like I'm
I can
uniquely
see it might
flawed.
not be true for everybody else, but it's definitely true for me.
Right. And the cool thing is, like, we don't have to like arm wrestle our way through that. Like, oh, I am worthy. I am enough. I am, we don't have to do any of that when we realize like, oh, that's what my left hemisphere is spitting out. And it's like partially informed, interpretation of things. And so again, when we shift into harmony, and the way to recognize that is a feeling state. So there's also some like the central nervous system is our brain and our body. Like we are one vessel. We're not like brain and body, which I think our society kind of tries to drive home. But so a really helpful thing to know is that when we are in a heightened state of like really, so when growing up, right, we've all been told like, pay attention, Britta, pay attention, Kevin, pay attention, Fawn. And the kind of attention.
Like, notice what that does to me as you say it. I'm like, okay, like sit up straight, hyper focus. Okay.
Yeah. Oh shit. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like jolting. So that's the kind of attention that we've been told to be in for our entire lives. And that kind of attention is actually a hyper vigilant, hyper aroused state that puts us into our left hemisphere. So for efficiency reasons, our response system is so brilliant that when we get startled or scared, or there might be some kind of danger, right, which could be getting in trouble in class, getting a bad grade, not fitting in, we go into this state of kind of like a survival state, which actually, for efficiency's sake, starts to reduce the activity of the right hemisphere, puts the left hemisphere in charge because it's really good at danger, move, like, like thing, go, or fight, or flight, or fawn, right? So, so the left hemisphere, when we're in that state, that's the one that's active. So that's why it's really important to not like trust our thinking necessarily in those states, or to recognize that we we're not probably going to have the most accurate experience of reality if we're in some kind of a contracted, or if we feel stressed, or if we feel anxious, or like the physiological correlates of that, right? And so that's a great thing to know as well. If that's going on, then it's a signal that we can shift into the, it's okay, let's bring the blood flow, let's bring our neurotransmitters back into harmony in reactivating the right hemisphere, and then we can orient toward whatever we were orienting toward. So one more thing on this, and then I'll stop. So this other researcher, Les Femi, that's a very long story, but he essentially discovered through EEGs and studies of uh, peak performance and optimal functioning that, contrary to popular belief, it actually is possible to be in a heightened state of attention in a way that isn't in the red, isn't in that like narrowly focused hijacking kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. And that it's simply, we've just never been taught how to train our attention in a way that we're able to be in that zone or be in that flow state. And so he went on to train peak athletes, and I mean, like top Fortune 50 companies and yada, yada. And so that's really great to know too, is that for me, at least when I'm talking about being in a state of like being in the feeling or a state of well-being, I'm not talking like, for me, it's not always like, okay, good. I'm in like this butterfly rainbow feeling. Nah, like I love to be excited. If you can't tell, I love to be energized and like in the juicy richness of life. And that is like being connected and engaged with life is the feeling of being alive, right? That's the energy of it. So that too is right hemisphere open focus, which is actually alpha brainwave synchrony, which is a whole different thing. But it's basically like, it's so cool that our brain lets us know and our body lets us know when we are in or out of alignment with the way that we're designed. And that's kind of all there is to it. As much as this sounds very informational, it's kind of like, if you feel better, orient in that direction. If you don't feel fantastic, good to notice.
Mm-hmm.
The secret to peak performance, an amazing life. Like that's it. Yeah. I remember reading Les's book, Open Focus.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have that one.
And it was so much, like I remember so much of the pointers were like focusing more on, at least the ones that I remember, it was like focusing more on the space. It was like even like invitation, like as you're reading this book, like notice how you're probably reading like, and you're probably like more lasered in on the words. And he was inviting like, instead of doing that, sort of soften your focus, open your focus, and more notice the space between the words and the space. And then sort of like, oh, well, I'm like reading the words here, but there's not that quality of vigilance to it.
Yeah. That's so cool. I don't know. I haven't met anybody that has read that book or familiar with his stuff. Yeah. So when I came across that book, I actually I wanted to study with him, but he had unfortunately passed a few years prior. But his wife was his intellectual, academic, and business partner. And so I reached out to her and I trained with her for several months and got certified in open focus. And that was like so revolutionary as well. Les is, he recognized in his studies that when he was guiding people to, so the phrase is, can you imagine the space between, and any two things. So your right hand and your left hand. Can you imagine the space between yourself and the wall? And so this is very oversimplified, but what he saw on the EEG is that the brain went into alpha synchrony. It didn't do that with meditation. It didn't do that with mindfulness. It didn't do that with breathing techniques. Only when the prompt was to imagine space. And he realized, oh, that's because like the left hemisphere can't imagine space because there's nothing to imagine. So it's a real tricky way.
So it's like you have to go to right hemisphere to do that. Yeah. Yeah. I was just starting to do it as you were speaking it, and just immediately what I start feeling is like bliss. It's just like, like peace, bliss.
Immediately.
It's like, I was having this conversation with someone recently. It's, it feels like I can give myself a dose of MDMA whenever I want without any drugs. It's like that. And suddenly I'm in that, oh my God, connected bliss. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, there are many roads to, and this is the question that Ian gets, and I get, asked a lot, is like, okay, so what do we do? How do we orient into thriving, which is like such a procedural left hemisphere.
Give me the 5
question.
steps.
And notice which part of you is asked. Yeah, it's like, that's the left hemisphere question.
Exactly. Especially with the state of the world being what it is. Like we're all, not we all, but many of us are like, how do we fix this situation? Like, how do we fix this situation and that situation? And
it's probably not going to be from the same level of consciousness that we created it from.
Bingo. Yep.
Probably, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Case in point.
It was, there's the Einstein quote. I loved this for years and been using it for years, and like using it with clients. And I love the way the hemisphere awareness just like, yes, this is true. This is how we're designed. It's the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift.
Yeah.
And it's like these words we use, like intuition or like felt knowing, wisdom, like it's literally how we're designed. I think that's what's so cool about this brain hemisphere awareness. It's like, no. It's like in you, physiologically, already. It's there. And the right brain is designed to lead because of everything you were just speaking to. It sees the whole. Like the right brain takes the left brain into account.
Yeah.
I know there's often that like almost very much from the left brain concern, but like if I orient more right brain, like I will give up all my like problem solving, and then what'll I do with like what do I do? And it's like, right, because the left brain is not designed to take the right brain into account, so it can't fully understand.
Yes.
Yeah, it can't fully understand that like the right brain does take the left brain into account. Like wisdom will take into account all of the practical human data everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I loved when you were speaking to like Ian's work of looking back into history and noticing like the expression of like how that culture, what you could just see like, oh, this is the reflection of were they more left brain or right brain. And as you were sharing that, I was like, oh, and like the left brain dominant ones, there was like that ultimate like collapse, something like that is what I heard. I'm like, oh, that was most of my life was cycling between those. I think like you two seem to like, for whatever reason, find this right brain thing earlier and live more from it. I had like glimpses of this, but I didn't have this understanding. And I was so in my left brain, like so times where I was in my right brain and stuff was just going amazing. But then I would get so locked in my left brain. I mean, I'm remembering this, I maybe have told this story on the podcast before where it was when I was playing poker professionally, and I got to a point I was just so stressed out. I was so in the left brain, but I didn't know that that's what was going on. And I got to this like rock bottom, and I was just like, fuck this. I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. This is so stressful. And then like 4 or 5 days later, after just permission to, I didn't know this is what I was doing, but essentially I was just like, fuck this left brain shit. I'm just going to my right brain and I don't know what I'm going to do. But I didn't have the language or that understanding, but that's what I did. And then 4 or 5 days later, it occurred to me, I just like wanted to go back and play poker. And then I went back and played poker, and it was so easy. I was in flow. I was barely thinking, and I played so unbelievably good. And then that month, and then I just like kept playing, but I played like probably half as much as I normally would play. And I made like 3 or 4 times as much money as I ever. I mean, it was like, it was like God mode. I was like, and it was so easy, and it was fun, and it was flow, and it was enjoyable. And I didn't have this understanding. So then at some point, left brain came right back in, and like, and then more like started playing and and then was trying to figure out always, how do I get back to these? Oh, I've tasted these states where it's just everything's so easy. And then I would try to think my way into it, and it would never work, and now having this understanding, it's like, oh my God, it was it's so easy. It's so simple. It's so ordinary. And it's like you've been saying, Fawn, like it's kind of the only thing to do. It's like such a simple shift. And when you start to like get more of this, it becomes obvious. And then you just hang out more in the right brain. And then life goes so much more amazing. And then you notice when you're in the left brain, because it's like, wait, I'm starting to feel stressed. And then you get less, at least my experience, then I get less tolerant to like a little bit of stress. And I'm like, hold on, stop. Where before I'd go 2 months just like, and now I'm like, it's just like a tiny bit stressful. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's go. Let's like, okay. Now I start to feel great again.
Yeah.
I'll just hang out here and like do nothing. And then
Put the master
I
back
find
on
like
his throne.
almost the more I give myself permission to do nothing. I had a coaching session a few weeks ago, and it was like, I felt like it was the least I ever did. I mean, I did nothing. I was just like hanging out there, and stuff happened. And then at the end, the client was like, yeah, this was like by far the best session we've had so far.
Amazing.
Of course. And I'm like looking back, I'm like, that makes sense. And oh yeah, but it was like, wow, yeah, I like the level of effortlessness would be so shocking to my left brain that like, no, it has to be harder than this. It can't be this easy. And we're saying, no, it is this easy.
And you're designed this way. Like we're designed this way.
Like this is our natural state.
Yeah. And I like appreciate, Fawn, when you were sharing earlier, more toward the beginning of this conversation, like how so much of the psychological realm, it's just, it lives in left hemisphere land.
Mm.
It's like,
yeah,
only dealing with narrative self, and like things are a problem that need to be fixed. So like at best, you get back to baseline. You get back to like, I'm not fucked.
If that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Sort of like at best you can like paint the prison cell you're in with some like prettier paint,
right.
But like you're still in the prison.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Versus like thriving, actually.
Yeah.
Thriving.
Kevin, thank you for sharing, and Britta, you too. Thank you for sharing that awesome example from your lived experience, and like like being able to look back and realize and recognize like, oh, it makes so much sense. Like it's
so obvious with
so
this
obvious
from this view. It's like, oh, duh. the only thing that was going on.
Here's the thing. So our society, and so Ian McGilchrist has a documentary called The Divided Brain. Fantastic documentary. It's absolutely, it covers his work in a really helpful, like,
Cool.
I think, really great way. Yeah, it's like so freaking illuminating. I'd
Do you
love
know
to
where
watch.
this is? This like on Netflix? Do you know where can we
If
find
you
it?
just type
Movie night.
in, yeah, let's do it. If you type in The Divided Brain, it'll come up. It was by an independent filmmaker, so you can watch it through their site.
Cool.
Yeah. It's so like it's life changing. It's
Sounds
so
amazing.
so insightful. Anyway,
We need to have a
where
watch
was I going
party.
with that? Yeah, I did with my clients a couple of years ago. I was like, everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. It was so fun. And I'd love to have a conversation with you guys after you watch it too, and like hear.
That'd be
hear
fun.
what-
Yeah, let's do
good
that.
too. Yeah, for sure. But so here's the thing: like we happen to be living in an epoch of human history where Western society is so obsessively like top down, bottom, sideways, like from the left hemisphere, built upon left hemispheric orientations to the world, dominance, independence, radical, like capital. I mean, there's like so much about the way that the Western world is not only oriented, but the conditioning that we have received from the time we arrived here, most of us anyway, is so emphasizing living in left hemisphere dominance that that conditioning strengthens that part of our operating system. It strengthens that left hemisphere. So we've literally been conditioned to think of intuition as like woo, or like not as valuable or unreliable or untrustworthy. We've been conditioned to believe that we have to be hard on ourselves and that there's a self in the first place to be hard on. And that we need to really drive it home in order to be successful, and that being successful is really important. And what the fuck, So we literally we're inundated from every direction, the media, like education, professional world, like you name it. Like you start looking at the world through like knowing this, and it's like, holy fuck, no wonder we are all so wound up and stressed and struggling, and like we don't know any better. And to your point, a lot of us do experience those moments or momentary right hemisphere harmony and I love to ask people about their experiences. Like, when have you felt your best? When have you felt really connected with life and aliveness? And as they describe that, and as I reflect on that for myself, it's like right there, right hemisphere harmony, right there. And then conversely, it's just like, whoa, it's so clear. So obviously, I love knowing this and being able to share this, because it's not only a super helpful lens into our own experience and the reality we create in our own minds, but also the world around us. And for me, it's tapped me into so much more compassion for my fellow humans. Like, most people don't know any better. Like, there's really an innocence and an ignorance, but an innocent ignorance to the way that most of humanity is operating. And so there's that compassion piece. And then it's also really exciting to share the information, because it's like, feed a man a fish versus like teach a man to fish. And it's just so like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, So anyway.
And it's the thing, it seems like the thing that everybody's looking for. Like Britta and I talk about this. We're like, I feel so lucky to have found this. And it's like, oh my God, we're in touch with the thing that everybody's looking for, and they already have it, and they just don't like, and it's just this simple thing. And like, oh my God, what is possible for just an individual? Like the transformation that can happen is insane. It's perfect. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who, like, I lived mostly in that left brain with the glimpses, and like, fuck, that sucked. And now I live mostly in this right brain, and
wow.
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is so beautiful. And to just imagine, like, I just selfishly want for me, the world to wake up to this shit, because like, oh my God, like, even if it's just all for me, I'm just like, I want it for me. Because like, fuck,
That's
that
a
would be
nicer world.
so,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be like, wow, how good would this be if like more and more, like, oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I guess like any final, like, do you have any final things that you would love to, I don't know, share with the listener or have them look in a direction or sort of, I don't know, something to sort of, I don't know if it's like not take away, but something to kind of like land the plane here. And if they're like, ooh, like I feel sparked by something in this, like now what?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I too would love the world to to experience its natural orientation to thrive. So I think so I work with a lot of really high caliber, high performing individual clients, right? So CEO, a lot of C-suites and presidents of companies and consultants, et cetera, et cetera. And what they love knowing, and I think what we all love knowing, if I'm being honest, is that this isn't theoretical. This is legit. And B, the studies and the literature on the highest performing, most innovative, inventive, creative humans that have lived, as far as we've been able to research it, they all embody this right hemisphere harmony orientation with the world. So that part of us, that left hemisphere that's like, oh, but no, like if you want to stay successful or if you want to be a high achiever, you have to stay the way you've been. No, that's just blatantly
You're
bullshit.
wrong.
You're
Sorry.
wrong. Sorry
Spoiler
about that,
alert.
Sierra.
You're wrong.
Yeah. So there's something exciting about knowing that not only is this like connecting us with what some people might perceive to be more of like the spiritual, thrivey, well-being stuff, but like actually for real though, it connects us with these are limitless potential, like ways of being and living and experiencing and creating that we can't even conceive of from where we're standing right now. And so tapping into that, like really trying this stuff on, really, listen to some of Ian McGilchrist's talks. I'll provide some resources for you guys. But really when you find yourself in a great feeling, whether it's a flow state or it's relaxed or whether it's like kicking ass at in your soccer game or whatever, or in the boardroom, that's the feeling. That's your kind of litmus test.
Yeah. Like that's
Yeah.
home. That's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Where can people find you if they want to?
I'm very excited to share that by the time this episode airs, I will have my new website up and live. For the first time in 10 years, I actually haven't ever really had a real website. Don't tell anyone. I've been like referral only. So, I'm
Just
super
side
excited.
note, more proof. You don't have to do it the typical left
You are a
hemisphere
coach and you're
way.
listening and you think you got to do what it is. You might be stuck in your left brain.
Yeah.
True story. Yeah. So fawnmiller.com is the website and there's tons of information on there. I'm so excited to finally have my presence in the world in a way that people can find more easily and learn from. Yeah. Any takeaways or final thoughts from you guys? I'm curious to know any insights.
Like for me, I just like this conversation. It's like there's something about even being in this conversation with you two right now that taps me into like even more of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was in this before, and then it's like wow, just like that remembering of the power, the simplicity of like just like talking about this stuff, just kind of hanging out in it. That's like and in a group field especially, it seems like it's just like we get synced up to it, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm more in that now, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's so simple. It's so simple, and it's such a joy just to like hang out with other people who get this stuff.
Like we're perfectly designed.
Fancy that.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for coming on, Fawn. This is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I absolutely, from day one, Britta, have adored, loved, and appreciated our conversations and your capacity and ability to really explore and dive in and feel your way into whatever it is in your life that you're exploring, and to be a natural beacon of light for this truth that we are oriented to thrive. It's such an honor and such a pleasure to connect with you all the time. And Kevin, it's such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for your generativity and connection here. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys.
Same. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
You're
Love,
awesome.
gratitude.
I'm excited to geek out more. You're also I was introduced to open focus from one other human, and you're the second human I've ever met who's mentioned that stuff. I'm like, this is my
I thought
people.
that about you too. I was like, we could just put them in a room and they could just go and it'd be like, I've read that book too. I've read that book too. I've read that book too. And I'm like, just give me the cliff notes and I'll go integrate it.
Yeah, we might have to do a solo podcast, just you and I sometime, and just like go full
Let's
geek
do it.
out nerd. Like,
Both of you with your giant whiteboards. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Coming soon. Coming soon.
I'm so grateful to like just get the gift of that from both of you. It's so awesome. So great to be around it. Yeah.
It could be like Britta on the couch and then Kevin and just Britta gets to like absorb it all. Great.
I'm a yes to that. Yeah.
I'm a yes to that too. I'm in.
Great.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Ciao.
Bye.